Welcome to Lockbox, a podcast providing real estate professionals with action items for success. My name is Jeffrey Broger, and I'm going to be your host. I'm the founder of two real estate marketing and tech companies, STEEZY.Digital and realnurture.io. In this podcast, you'll learn from top 1% real estate and mortgage brokers the exact secrets to their success. Welcome to Lockbox. Welcome to Lockbox. My name is Jeffrey Broger, and I'm here today with Athena Brownson. Athena, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes, absolutely. So why don't you start off by telling our listeners who you are and where you're from?
Absolutely. So as you just said, my name is Athena Brownson. I am from Breckenridge, Colorado. I currently live in Denver, Colorado. I work with Compass, and I've been a broker for about 8 years now.
Awesome. And what's the story of what got you into the real estate industry? What was that first exposure of the power of real estate?
I laugh at this question because I was doing my research. I listened to a lot of episodes of your podcast, which I love. And I found a very commonality that a lot of us grew up in real estate. And
right.
I also grew up in real estate. So my father was a residential real estate developer in Breckenridge. So I grew up on job sites, picking out finishes with my mom did the interior design for his projects. And honestly, growing up on job sites, especially in a mountain community, I had no desire to be in real estate. I associated it with being freezing, waiting for my dad out, on job sites, and he was taking too long, and I wanted nothing to do with it. But the older I got, the more intrigued I was with the home. And I eventually fell into real estate, and it was the best fall that I ever took, I would say. And I've taken a lot of good falls in my life.
Well, speaking of taking some good falls, you mentioned that prior to your real estate career, you were a professional skier.
That is a true fact.
I'm curious how that translates over now into your real estate career.
Absolutely. Honestly, so I'll start by saying, I think that being an athlete, being a professional skier, taught me more about the business world than any schooling I've done, any real estate school, any coaching has ever taught me. So I attribute my success in business to the fact that I grew up being coached by some of the most incredible coaches in the world. I skied about 300 days a year for 10 years. In that time, I managed to blow 9 ACLs and break my neck twice. So it had its fair share of both, me thriving and really performing at my best, and also facing some really tough adversity. And that adversity has actually taught me so much more in my adult life as I've faced different challenges, health challenges mainly. But, I have I don't know if I'd say fond memories actually, but I have a lot of memories of coaches, if you don't land a trick right, you're hiking up the mountain, you're not taking a chairlift. And it's little things like that where it's, in business, in real estate, we don't always want to do everything that we need to be doing. And I think of those days and I bite my lip and I say, these things got to get done. And I attribute that all to skiing. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can relate with that a lot. My early upbringing, I had a couple of sports that were in heavy rotation. One wasn't so dangerous, team sport. It was baseball. And that was like the organized sport that my dad supported. And really shout out to dad for paying for all that and driving me to the practices and doing everything. But my mom is huge in the off-road community. And like my family is pseudo like famous in the off-road community. Like I have an uncle in the Hall of Fame for the American Motorcycle Association. My grandpa's in the Hall of Fame, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And so I grew up, before I rode a bicycle, I rode a motorcycle.
Wow.
and motocross was like my best sport, right? Compared to other people, I started young. I was like best at that. And that and then surfing were like my extreme sports experiences.
Those are
And so,
extreme.
yeah.
For sure.
And both of those have taught me so much about business, adversity, life, perseverance, discipline, consistency. I mean, some of the most important habits and characteristics that you can build that can translate over into the skills that you have for the rest of your life were formed early in those sports. So I 100% agree with you and can relate to that.
Isn't it incredible the things that, we enjoyed doing? Obviously, we're passionate about these sports, and just the lifelong lessons that you learn, like you said, discipline and how to face adversity and challenges, and kind of just pushing through when you don't really feel like it. And I think that's some of the most critical business experience you could ever ask for. And it happens to be doing something you're passionate about. And hopefully you can translate that into a career such as real estate that you're passionate about as well. And I think for me, I feel so grateful and so lucky every day to have found a career that I am that passionate about, and that I can take those facts, because the sky's the limit in our business. We have the ability to work extremely hard, be disciplined, and there's no ceiling on how far we can go. And I think that it pairs so well with athletics. At real estate school, did I learn much? Probably not. From my mentors, did I learn a lot? Absolutely. But I find myself day in and day out going back to things I learned, not even thinking in a million years that they would translate into my adult life.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. So do you have an example on top of your mind of something that really translated over? And then we could kind of move on to a different topic after that. But yeah, I'm curious if something comes to mind.
Absolutely. So over the last about 4 years ago, I was actually diagnosed with Lyme disease. And Lyme disease turned into, so it was right after I had my last neck surgery. So I've had a couple neck surgeries from skiing. And right after I got diagnosed with Lyme disease, my immune system started attacking itself. So I got autoimmune disease after autoimmune disease after autoimmune disease. And it was going from, being a professional athlete that was on snow 300 days a year to, barely being able to get out of bed. And that, over the last 4 years, I have a port in my chest right now. I get plasma transfusions every other week. And I honestly don't think I would be able to perform at a high level as a real estate broker facing adversity had I not, learned how to kind of grin and bear it, and to show up in whatever capacity you're able to, and whatever that looks like every day. And I think that's my biggest, that's something that I continually thought in skiing. It's show up, do the best you can do that day. And some days are going to be hard and challenging. And currently I'm in the same position. It's, I'm battling illnesses that would generally, put you on bed rest. And I think it would be pretty easy to go down that road. But I have learned and just enjoyed real estate so much, and it's become a life force for me. But skiing has taught me how to face adversity and really take it head on. And that's what I've been doing for the last 4 years.
Wow. Well, that is certainly an inspiring story. And what's that?
I said, drop that bomb on you.
Well, I mean, it's certainly an inspiring story and something that I can't relate with personally, but something that is tremendously powerful in seeing you have that apparatus on your chest, and for the last 4 years still selling real estate, living your life, doing the absolute best you can do. And like you said, just kind of like gritting your teeth and moving forward. I think mindset is such a big part of life in general, but especially when you're facing adversity, whether that be something as serious as this or something as light as a problem in business that we most times blow up and, we over magnify because you don't have that perspective. Yeah. And how I can relate though, is that when I was 16 years old, my father passed away, and that was such a powerful and monumental shift of everything that I knew that nothing else after that has even come close to being as significant in my life. So when problems would come up, I would just think back to that experience of grieving and going through that with my family, and going through doing the work to then truly heal from it over the next, what it was, I guess 6 years or 7 years to really took to like become the best version of myself after that traumatic event. And now it's like something comes up in business, a client cancels or something happens. I'm like, okay, that this everyone's okay. Right. It puts things in perspective when you look at it like that.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for your loss, but
thank you. Appreciate that. It's okay. It's part of my story, and made me stronger. I've come to now appreciate the 16 years I did have, rather than be resentful for the time that was lost, because that's just no way to live. So yeah, thank you. And
how it puts things in perspective for you in life, and it does so
though.
I think all the time, whenever, a real estate transaction isn't going smoothly, or maybe something terminates, and you just think it's like, it's such a little, it's something that we can get through, and we can get our clients through gracefully and be there for them because you've been through something that is big in your life. And I think when you take that time to do healing and to do self-work and to understand who you are as a person to the core, because it takes you to the core, that you can really, I think it allows you the compassion and the understanding to be there for other people, because you understand that if you got through that hardship, and if you're getting through these hardships, that you can get through anything. And with that, you can get, you can help others get through anything, which I think is one of the most beautiful lessons that you can learn during trauma is how much you get to know yourself, who you are, what you're made of, but also how that translates and how you're able to interact with other people. And, in our business, it's all relationship. And that's what I love about it. But it can be a roller coaster, and it can feel like the end of the world sometimes. So being able to kind of be that rock and that backbone for others is one of the best things that's come out of, my hardship, at least.
Yeah. I heard a quote that said, maybe you went through your storm so you could help somebody else through theirs. And for me, that sums up what you just said. It's like this trauma can end up being an asset later, because you could then help others that have gone through it or are going through it. And you can immediately build rapport and connection with them, because you have that common experience that not many other people have. You're qualified to have a different type of conversation with that person and break through. And it all is a part of our human experience when we're talking about relationship-based business and building rapport and connection. So yeah, so many great topics here to spin off onto. Right, exactly. But I would love to now shift to real estate and help some others that are going through their own real estate storm, to kind of put things in perspective. Could you communicate your transaction volume like last year, and then, kind of what you're on track for this year? Because then I'll have some follow-up questions based on where you're at.
Yeah. So last year I did have my best year, and I sold a little like 23 million, but I'd like to say I was in the hospital for 2.5 months of last year. And wow. I was getting plasma transfusions every 3 weeks. So I'm pretty proud of myself for getting there. I think this year, my goal is to hit 30. I do have a very small team. Our goal is to hit 60 for the year. But, I look back at last year, and I think I was writing an offer in the hospital bed, and I was thinking, if I can do this, I can get through anything from here on out in real estate.
Yes. And that's inspiration to anyone out there that, might be struggling to break 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, right? If Athena can do it with 2.5 months in the hospital, then you can certainly do it no matter what's going on. So it's some inspiration there to, just buckle down and, keep working hard at this profession, because if you're in that limbo period where it hasn't really taken off for you yet, and gosh, you've maxed out credit cards and you've spent so much time and you're at this place where you're thinking about going back to some other more secure position or day job that you left and you were so excited, but now you're discouraged. Hopefully this will give you inspiration to continue, right? Because that's a really powerful story.
I think that's so important right now too. I think, there's a lot of tension in the world of real estate. Obviously, all over the country, inventory has been extremely limited. Interest rates are going up, and it does make it so if you're an agent that's at that place in your career where you don't quite have grasp, you don't quite have your footing, it can be, you start looking around like, should I be doing this? Is this the right thing for me? Now, of course, if it's not your passion and you don't love it, find your passion. But if it's something that you love and that you are passionate about, there are so many resources. I mean, we live modern technology, just the fact that we're able to do this right now. We have so many resources and the ability to learn and to grow as humans. But at the same time, we also have the opportunity to just get back to the basics and to really focus on perfecting the basics and reminding yourself that if you're disciplining yourself, if you're disciplined in your actions daily, if you're focusing on what your absolute must-dos are and understanding what those are and taking action to just get the basics done consistently, you will find success. It just takes a little bit of time.
Such great advice. And I would love to dive in. You have that as a reminder in your phone.
Totally.
So I'm curious if you have a single most important action that you've taken on a daily basis that has attributed most to your success. And I would be very interested if it is something that came from your professional skiing history that has translated into real estate. But if it's something that's more current and applicable to real estate, then I'll just let you take this wherever you want to.
You're a mind reader, honestly. As a skier, as an athlete, you have a coach. You have someone looking over you that sees the bigger picture and understands where you're going and keeps you accountable for how you're going to get there. I believe that the same thing is necessary in any realm of business, but especially real estate. It is so easy as a real estate agent to get caught up in the stress of transactions and running around town and doing, everything that we do. I think it's like 12 jobs at once, that we forget to look at the bigger picture and we forget to focus on what we're doing as daily actions that need to be consistent in order to keep our business from ebbing and flowing so much. Kind of get some consistency. So I have an incredible real estate coach. I fully believe in the importance of mentorship and coaching. When I began in real estate, I was fortunate enough to be able to just follow around one of the top brokers for a year. And he was my mentor, but really I just followed everything he did. I listened to how he spoke. I watched him do market analysis. I went to showings with him, and I just really soaked up that information. And now as I've progressed into my real estate career, I've been working with a program for about 3 years now. And I have a different coach every 6 months who keeps me extremely accountable for my day-to-day activities. So I have a spreadsheet of everything that I need to, of my goals that I need to be hitting every day. And that is between, meeting with people face-to-face, going to events, making phone calls, checking in with my sphere. Every day I have a different theme day of who I'm going to check in with. And I have to, fill out this greatness tracker every week. And if I'm slacking, he's going to hold me accountable for it. And he also is able to look at my business from afar and go through it with a fine-tooth comb and pick up on things that I might be so consumed by transactions that I'm not even paying attention to. And he helps me to see the bigger picture. And I fully, wholeheartedly believe that has been one of the biggest things that's been able to keep me going and keep my business thriving through hardship is just the power of mentorship and accountability and coaching. So I would attribute my success to coaching. And really, when I look at what my day-to-day activities are, these are basics that we learn your first year in real estate. It's nothing, we're not reinventing the wheel. It's not trying to do something completely. I mean, innovation is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I think innovation partnered with basics is absolutely crucial. How are you connecting with people? How are you building relationships with people? And are you making a concerted effort to do so instead of just getting taken away in transactions and showings and the busyness of daily life? It's really prioritizing the basics. And again, I think that really helps with the ebbs and flows. So all agents, not just younger agents, I think getting back to the basics is key. And if you can find a coach, I highly recommend it. And that might just be the athlete in me, but I think coaching is one of the best things that I've, ever committed to.
Well, coaching is valuable for many reasons, and I appreciate you sharing that. But what's most clear to me right now is a quick story of my vacation last week in Hawaii.
Ooh.
There was a day where I was on the beach. My whole family was there, my nephews, they're boogie boarding in the shallows. And, I'm out there with them, pushing them into waves. And then all of a sudden we start fighting this current. And I'm like, holding him and like pulling him back towards shore because we keep getting sucked towards the outside. And I'm here thinking like, I've been surfing for 22 years at this point. Like I'm literally like a waterman, like, could be in treacherous waters and be fine. And yet this mom who was 10 feet away said, "You guys are in a riptide. I can see it." Why? Because she wasn't in the situation, right? She could look at it from the perspective of even an untrained eye and say, "What do you just come over here? What are you guys doing? Come 10 feet to the right." Like that's all you need to do. And that's the value of coaching, right?
100%.
It's just that outside perspective on like, I know what your goal is. Why? Yeah. What are you doing?
That is such a good story. And it's so true. It's, when you're in it, you don't see the big picture. You don't understand which way to go. And you can be, a seasoned pro, and it's still the case.
Yeah. So I was like, man, this is even last week, I thought that was a perfect explanation of why a coach is valuable, because literally this mom just told me I was in a riptide. I've been surfing 22 years. Like I should have seen it, but I was in it. Right. I was just, hey, come on, we got to go to shore. I was so caught up in the moment.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Protecting nephews, we're protecting clients. You get so caught up in it, and it's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. And that's where coaching comes in, or someone to keep you accountable.
Yeah. The accountability piece is really the key. And, there's just so much to be said about that. It's, when you call your coach on that Friday or whatever that day is for you, and you have to report to them, there's just something in the back of your head leading up to it that says, I don't want to have to say I didn't do this thing that I said I wanted to do or was going to do or was committed to doing, right? I don't want to have to say I didn't do it because of some excuse. When there's that accountability, it just kicks you into a new level. So
it does. It really does. It helps you shift to the next level, whether it's conscious or unconscious. Whether it's like, for example, when I don't hit one of my goals, I'm fined by giving money to charity, which we do anyway. Of course, like giving back is a huge part of my belief system and business, but we literally get fined for not making the phone calls. But apart from that, it's just knowing that you have to look someone in the eye over Zoom, be it, and say that, you didn't do what you said you were going to do. And I think that's everything. And, we want to hold integrity and hold ourselves to the highest standard and show up as our best selves. And I think, doing what you say you're going to do and showing up is one of the best things that we can do in our day-to-day lives.
That's right. Couldn't agree more. So regarding the transaction volume that you're on pace for now, I'm curious what your percentage of referral business is compared to new business that might come from social media or advertising, just that type of like sphere and existing versus new. Do you kind of know that percentage?
I do 100%. So, and listening to prior episodes, it's actually a little bit different than what I've heard. And maybe I need to talk to you about marketing more, but my business is about 85% referral based or sphere of influence. I really, really, really focus on nurturing my sphere, asking for referrals, but really just taking care of the people that I'm doing transactions with. And I think that goes back to relationship-based business. I do some, of course, I have a social media presence. I've got a great team that does help me with making sure my Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and Google Business and whatever else I'm missing are up to date and constantly in front of people. I do get clients from those resources. I mean, I have people that I've, become very close with from Instagram that I've helped buy houses, but for the most part, I have a referral and sphere of influence based business.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. We could definitely talk after. A lot of times, even if social media is dialed, the advertising portion of it isn't really being done. The remarketing, the constant lead generation for cold traffic, stuff like that is automatically being followed up with. That is oftentimes the next level when you have good internal systems. And I checked out your pages, Instagram, content, following, everything looks great, highly engaged. But a lot of times that the ad part is with that missing link. So happy to talk after. Yeah. Really curious what you think of like where the industry is heading, the next 5-10 years. What are your projections for what the real estate transaction might look like in say 2030?
Absolutely. So man, the real estate transaction, I think there's like this battle going on, and it's between, the Zillow conglomerates of the world that kind of want to create a more transactional process. In my eyes, you're losing the human connection. You're losing that trusted advisor that, if you were looking for a doctor, you would look for the best doctor. You wouldn't look for a company that was just on the internet. But I think that one of the reasons that I love the company that I work with, Compass, is there's this strong belief system in taking innovation. So innovation in marketing, innovation in client experience, innovation in CRM, like you said, getting back to people, like having bots text back really quickly or lead capturing. So I think there's this beautiful space where technology will thrive and should thrive. So using the internet, but then pairing it with the real estate broker that can use these tools to give the consumer the absolute best experience possible. I don't believe that real estate is going to stay, not necessarily as it is now, but I do believe that it's going to evolve, as everything does. We have so much technology that will things like Opendoor, where you can punch in a code and see a house, become more prevalent? Yes, probably. But I think where real estate will be successful is in like a marrying of real estate brokers using the best possible technology and then giving the consumer the best experience. And I think it'll weed out, some brokers, it'll weed out some lenders, but it'll end up being what's best for the consumer just based on where technology has gone. I mean, I can't even wrap my head around everything that tech is doing currently, and it's incredible. So how can we marry the two? How can we take these incredibly innovative tools and pair them with a relationship-based business? And honestly, I hope that's where it's going. We'll see, but that's, what our company really strives for. And I do like to think our company is very forward thinking and innovative. So we shall see, but that's my guess.
I think it's a great guess. And, the mission with
what you think.
Well, it's honestly very similar, so it won't be the most astounding answer. But I did some deep brainstorming with my co-founders 2 years ago. We all flew out to Scottsdale, Arizona, and just did a little breakout planning for the next year. And we were following a lot of the scaling up practices, that book, Scaling Up, amazing business book. And we were drilling down on okay, what's our real purpose? What's a real thing that we're doing to help impact and make the world a better place? And it was the similar motif of there's this war going on between tech and then the existing real estate industry, where tech has kind of infiltrated and helped out, but now is trying to replace the agent entirely. And we're caught in this war where ultimately, I think the best place for it to settle is for the tech empowered agent to still be able to represent the buyer or seller. And our one-liner statement ended up being something very similar to yours. And it was preserving the human negotiation in the real estate transaction. Because
we are on the same page.
Yeah, we can automate everything else, but we want the buyer or the seller to be represented by professionals that know the local market, and they can then negotiate on their behalf. The concept of a single company, and I'll just say company A because we don't want to say any particular iBuyer or whatever company, but the idea of that one company being a monopoly on the real estate transaction in the terms of judge, jury, executioner, they are representing the buyer, they're representing the seller, they're writing the contracts, they're creating the mortgage. It's not as, I don't know, I just feel like it's risky. That can easily just go so wrong. You need the checks and balances of the two sides bartering for the buyer or the seller to actually meet at the market price. So yeah, I just
best interest. Honestly, I think you need
what was
someone for everyone's best interest. You really do need someone advocating on each side, in a very peaceful way, but you need someone advocating for your best interests. And I think, unfortunately, when everything is kind of one-stop shop, you do lose that advocacy. And as realtors, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our clients to take care of them. And I put their best interests first. And I worry that gets lost in translation when there's not human involvement.
Exactly. Yeah. So we agree 100% on that. And, I think it's important to just maintain it. And I would imagine that it will, but our whole goal with the company that I've founded is to empower 100,000 real estate professionals with technology so that it will then impact millions of homeowners in the process. Because if we can empower 100,000 agents, then through that process, them having the opportunity to be discovered by the home buyer or the home seller and then represent them to a higher degree than these companies that are trying to do it, this one-stop shop, well, then that saved a couple $1,000s here, a couple $1,000s there on all these homeowners' experiences, protected them from some downside, saved them from some pitfall. And overall, we've impacted 1 million homeowners, right? Or millions. So that's our big, hairy, audacious goal.
I love your big, hairy, audacious goal. And I love that book.
Yeah. So what are some other books? While we're on the book topic, do you have a list of 1, 2, or 3 books that you would highly recommend?
Oh, definitely. Right now, my motto kind of this year has been all around Atomic Habits, which I've been reading. And the kind of aha moment I had was earlier this year. I was feeling just a little bit unmotivated, and I'm not someone that gets necessarily feels unmotivated very often, but when you're going through a lot of health things and, I was feeling a little bit burnt out, and I was kind of waiting for a moment of something to click in which my motivation would just skyrocket. Like there is something in life that will just automatically motivate you and everything will be different. And I was reading Atomic Habits, and I love the concept of every day doing something to just be 1% better. If I can be 1% better every single day, that is going to add up to an absolute landslide of accomplishment. Instead of looking for one big thing to completely come in and change your business or change your life, whatever it may be, if you aim every day when you get out of bed, what is something I can do today to just be 1% better, whether that's making a couple extra phone calls that you didn't want to make, or going to the gym and you didn't want to go, or going, running an extra mile, whatever it may be. That stuck with me and hasn't left my mind. And every day I think that way. And it's, at the end of the year, if we're working every day to push ourselves to be 1% better, that is going to end up getting us so much farther than if we're just looking for these big moments of motivation or big moments of everything getting done. So I love Atomic Habits. I also love Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. I don't know if you've read that, but the premise of life will always put circumstances in your life that look like red lights while you're in them. So, something bad happens, you look at it, it's a red light. It's something negative. We don't have a good connotation with it. But as you go back and you start stringing, events in your life together, you start recognizing that those red lights were actually green lights, because like we were talking about earlier, adversity we face that we might think might be the worst thing in the world at the time actually was a green light, because it taught us one of the biggest life lessons that we could have ever asked for. And having that knowledge that that maybe red lights are green lights, how can we approach adversity that's in our future? So instead of looking at things, through the perspective of, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me, it's okay, it's okay to have bad days. Things are, there are bad things that happen and hard things, but coming at them with a perspective of maybe this is a green light in my life that's trying to teach me something. And how can I approach this circumstance in a way that it's actually going to transform me as a human and help me to evolve into a better person? He also says, if you could write a billboard for your life, at the end of your life, what would you want your billboard to say? And and then work backwards from that. So what are your actions every day that are getting you to that billboard, to that point where, whether it's something about legacy or, something about success in business, whatever it may be, what is your billboard and what are you doing every day to get there? So those are my two favorites right now.
Amazing. I have comments for both. My first one, what would your billboard be?
Keep talking and I'll come back. We'll come back to that. I'm going to have to do some thinking. Right. I should have known that.
So my second comment is on Atomic Habits, the 1% increase every day. In scaling up, they also talk about if you want to increase top line revenue by 10%, right? Well, there are many factors that go into that. There is the amount of opportunity volume, i.e. leads that are coming in, right? Then there's your closing ratio, and then your, along the way as well, like leads, appointments, contracts, closings, right? There's all these percentages along the way. And so if you want to bump the ends by 10, instead of focusing on that, which is kind of a lagging indicator, why don't you go to the leading indicators and bump up your lead volume by 2% and your conversion rate here, and here by 1. And then the compounding effect, how they multiply on each other, it just explodes.
It's
right?
way more than the 10% that you
it could end up being 30% increase of top line revenue with a couple of 2 or 1% tweaks along the way.
It's so true. And it's often like going back to what I said about the basics. And it is often going back to the basics of what makes us successful and just tweaking it a little bit and making sure that you're doing, making those tweaks and that you're aware of that. Because if you're consistently tweaking and raising the bar, it compounds and you're exponentially farther than you ever thought you would be. And
Right.
what would my billboard be? It would be something about a life well lived.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that for the rest of my life, probably. Or you can do hard things.
I like that one. You can do hard things. Well,
I tell myself that all the time. I'm like, you can do hard things. Let's go.
I like that. That's a great one, honestly.
Right? I'm like, whatever, even if it's just that you're tired that day or whatever's going on. But I tell myself all the time, I'm like, you can do hard things. Pull up the bootstraps. Let's go.
That's awesome. Well, is there a question that I should have asked you or anything that you'd like to elaborate on from earlier?
I knew you were going to say that, so I prepared. I am curious if anyone's ever had a question that you should have asked them, but I wanted to just share a quote that it really sums up everything you and I have been talking about that my coach told me, and it really just sticks with me every day. And that is, it goes back to, I had such a hard time not saying it when you were talking earlier about some adversities you faced, but you're either in a storm, going into a storm, or coming out of a storm. So the idea that no matter where you're at in life, if things are really good, you have to understand that bad things do happen in life, and you have to be able to expect that, but with an attitude of positivity. And it's like, how can we prepare ourselves for the hardships that do come in life and the adversities that we do face, and understand that it's part of the different storms of life, and that you really do have the ability to conquer so much more adversity and get through so much more than you actually thought you ever could. And oftentimes, I think I pick a word every year, and this year my word is grit. And I honestly believe that when you're going through hardships, it's so easy to kind of just throw the towel in. And those are the moments that we are formed into the best versions of ourselves. And I think grit is gritting down and getting through whatever it is you're going through, and understanding that, bad things aren't going to last forever. You will come out of it. And if you have the right perspective, you'll come out of it a bigger, better version of yourself. If things are really good, hardship might be coming, and there's always going to be something. It's just how we approach it. So my friends, you can get through anything that is giving you trial currently. I am a strong believer that, together we can get through adversity, and that every day, if you just focus on being the best you can be and showing up, and even if showing up that day just means getting out of bed and maybe changing your pajamas to sweatpants, then that's what it is that day. But make sure that you're showing up for yourself. Otherwise, you can't show up for anyone else. That's my wisdom for the day.
Well, you are certainly an example of the wisdom as well. So way to walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
You as well. It's been such a fun conversation. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Likewise. How can listeners contact you?
Dear listeners, you can contact me. I'm going to say the easiest way is my Instagram, which is Athena Brownson Realtor. I'll spell that just in case. ATHENA BROWNSON REALTOR. And my phone number, website, and email are all on there. So it's a one-stop shop for anything you need.
There you go. Athena Brownson, everyone. She's out in Colorado. Very inspiring story of her transition from professional skier to professional real estate agent, and also with the adversity that she is experiencing physically, still selling over 20 million in real estate herself, managing a team that's on pace for 60 million this year. This has been an incredible conversation, and I really appreciate having you on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you all.
Thank you for listening. If you want to accomplish your real estate goals, then I highly suggest downloading my free Ultimate Real Estate Goal Setting Framework. The link is in the description of the show, and it will help you break down your annual income goal into the amount of phone calls, appointments, or open houses you need in order to achieve that goal. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.